If you're an e-com store owner with a storefront or showroom and you're really trying to push for more foot traffic, this video is for you. I want to show you how alongside your e-commerce campaigns, you can actually boost the foot traffic at your local store through Google Ads. A lot of e-commerce store owners that have showroom storefronts, they don't know about this. So today I want to show you really how you can get set up in 10 minutes with a new campaign just to boost local traffic. No other goal. So let's dive right into it. So what I have here in the screen share is a live example. This is a local Performance Max campaign I'm running for a customer. It doesn't need a lot of budget. It's $15 per day, but it actually does help drive more foot traffic. The way that we're able to do that is by having the right conversion actions in place at the start. So chances are there's a certain way people obviously engage with you, be it they book on your website to schedule an appointment, maybe they give you a call before they go in. So it's really, really important that you are tracking that and then you're setting that as the conversion action within this campaign. Alongside that, Google does give you, if you go to your goals, conversions, and summary, Google does give you get direction conversions. They automatically create it. So that really means with your map listings or your Google business profile, when somebody clicks get directions, that gets tracked. And if it's from that sponsored listing, that's where it's going to get pushed back in terms of the value back here. So really what you need to make sure is that you're tracking those conversions correctly. Number two, you actually have your Google business profile linked, which super simple. If you search up here linked accounts, you'll see an option to link Google business profile. If you're using Shopify with I think it's called the business manager, it should automatically be already linked. So let's go ahead. Let's create this campaign together. Just as a demo, you can follow along. You can listen to the video. Doesn't matter. So let's get right into it. So we'll click the blue button, obviously, new campaign. And then this is really important. So you'll want to select local store visits and promotions because it's what gives you that inventory for the maps particularly and makes it like a local campaign. So local, and as you can see, like we have a few conversion actions here. Within the contacts, I have the phone calls and then also form submissions are good. And then in terms of get directions and store visits, I would make sure if you don't have store visits, I would add actually in get directions, or I would even put it on secondary, just because you're going to get a huge volume of these, and you would rather optimize towards phone calls or form submissions that are showing tangible macro intent to go visit. Get directions, a ton of people can click it, and store visits, I would actually say leave on primary if you have it. Google really doesn't have great logic in terms of telling you when you actually unlock this conversion because you can't really create it. It just populates in your account. I've talked to Google reps. There's not really a logic behind it, but if you have it, I would add it in alongside contacts. So here, let's go down. You don't want to add anything from Merchant Center because again, this is local, serves a different purpose. So then from here, we want to continue. And then we want to name the campaign. So like you saw there, I had local Performance Max, you can say. It really doesn't matter. Whatever is clearest to you. Continue. All right, so bidding strategy. In terms of bidding strategy, you want to focus on maximizing conversions. I would typically leave it off of this. Why is because you're not running a product feed and you're not optimizing for online sales where you would use something like maximize conversion value with a target return on ad spend. I would be running maximize conversions and then with the goal to set a target CPA, cost per action. When you will be ready for that is, let's say in 30 days, you've gotten 15 conversions being, let's say, 8 phone calls, 7 form submissions or bookings. And you see that your average cost per conversion is, let's say, around $50. What I would do is I would set your TCPA a little bit more aggressively. What that means is, let's say 20%, 30% above target. So I would even set it to like $60. And that way you're not choking the algorithm when you set a TCPA. And you can think of it kind of as setting guardrails for it of, hey, this is, what I'm willing to pay per one of these conversions. That's really what I would say. I wouldn't really touch customer acquisition bidding here. And then languages, this is fine. So with brand exclusion, I typically would exclude brand, just because again, you don't really want Google to start feeding towards your branded terms, right? Because that's the lowest hanging fruit, like I've talked about in other videos. For e-commerce, non-negotiable. Here, I would still say it's pretty important to have it excluded. So I would add a brand list exclusion here. If you don't have one, like just press the edit on your screen, then create new, and then it might take a few days to review if Google didn't find your brand. But pretty straightforward process there. I would leave this as is. Typically, again, TV screens are not going to spend much. You don't really need to exclude it in particular. Most of the spend is going to go between computer and mobile. I would say more so mobile, something to keep in mind. And then you can auto-generate assets. We're going to skip this here. And then here is where you're going to put all of your assets. So in terms of this structure, let me just show you really the placements that you have here. So you have Maps, Display, Gmail. Most of the spend, again, you're focused on Maps. And the way that Google knows how to target is going to be by the search themes we select, which I'm going to show you. So here on your end, just make sure this is filled out. So business name, add the logos, final URL. I would say make sure you have a landing page built out for this. For now, you can send homepage, but again, it's not going to work as well. Why? Because these people are looking for something in specific. Their searches are qualified by XYZ store near me, or you can say automotive store near me, automotive parts store near me. That's going to be our search themes, right? So people that are searching that way, they're not looking to buy online. So your traditional online storefront of your e-commerce website isn't really the best match to the search. So you're off the bat, I mean, you're not going to see as many conversions. What you want is kind of like a booking, showroom, storefront page, specifically showing images of your storefront, maybe with a banner. Maybe you have an in-store promotion or offer, and that's going to be, that's going to click and say, okay, I need to go in store to actually redeem this because I can't buy it online. So try to think in that perspective. Definitely want to have your own landing page for that. And then I would put that as the final URL. In terms of headlines, I would focus on 1 to 3 headlines, kind of focus related to keywords where you're calling out, where your store is located. So you can say like located at, operating since, family owned and operated, automotive store, in what area, really any unique selling point you have. And then I would also include like a promo. Maybe you have more selection in store. So try to think about what's unique about your store. You can even pop it into ChatGPT, put your website URL and say you're creating a local campaign for within Google Ads to try to drive more storefront traffic. What are some unique selling points you can highlight for me that differentiate me from competitors or would make somebody want to visit my store, which I can do kind of prompting in a separate video. And then in terms of long headlines, descriptions, again, you're really just calling out to people the fact that you have that storefront. So I'm not really going to dive too much into ad copy here. I would say try to think of what makes you unique, and what really you take your storefront visitors, people that are coming to your store, what makes them want to come in store instead of online. Is there a specific reason? And call out to that problem. Again, that's going to be different for everybody. And then I would even use ChatGPT to put in some headlines and long headlines. Like after you created these, say, hey, these are my headlines, long headlines. Try to create some captivating descriptions. I would say you don't even need to fill out these full lists. Ad strength, in my opinion, is a complete myth. It's purely an indicator of how many combinations you can make. Diversity of your ad combinations, it's literally an explanation. So meaning if you give it a ton of headlines, descriptions, long headlines, it can test more. But if you don't have the budget to even test every single possible combination, which you'll need probably a crazy amount of money, there's no point. So just add in what's relevant to your business and don't kind of overcrowd it here and overwhelm the algorithm. Because if you had 15 headlines, I think it's 5 long headlines, 4 or 5 descriptions, so many possible combinations. And then you add in images and videos. So a little bit too much, I would say. So keep that in mind. And then with images, videos, obviously clear pictures of your storefront. If you have videos of also somebody kind of walking through your showroom, showing around, showing the different selection that you have, even browse your social media if that is to some extent developed. But yeah, really images of the storefront do best. Maybe people engaging in the store, somebody looking at a specific product, anything that calls out, speaks to your product. Because when you're on more kind of visual placements, like especially display, you want to make sure that you have really solid images, because that's pretty much the entire format there. Maybe on Meta you're running a kind of storefront type of creative or ad, and if that's performing well, you can use that too. In terms of the call to action, I would say you can use book now or contact us, right? You can even do shop now, just a little bit more e-commercey, but it depends what your main action you're trying to drive on your site is. On your site, as in like trying to push somebody to go visit locally, what you're really pushing. So keep that in mind. Not 100% important, but I would just make sure it's relevant to your business. I would also make sure that all the relevant kind of assets. So you have site links, you have promotions, prices. I would say make sure all of that is added in. They don't support all of the formats, so like I don't think you can really do prices for maps, because it's not, again, your typical native search ad. But definitely just make sure this is filled out. Like promotions for sure, like you can highlight in map section. So I would make sure that you just have that added in. You can go through it in the campaign or check at account level. When you're at campaigns and then assets, make sure it's applied, or created, or create custom ones that are more reference more of your local store. Again, what I want to emphasize here is you want to be super super targeted with your ad copy. This is not the same thing that you do for e-commerce, because these are different types of people looking for something else. So you really want to make sure you match to the solution that they're looking for. That's what I would keep in mind. And then, yeah, the only way you would be able to set this campaign up is if you had the business profile linked, like I showed you before. So that's on that end. I typically turn these off. What this means is Google can pretty much switch out your headlines and create customized ones. It's risky. I've seen some questionable things, and I would not recommend it at this time. Maybe in the future, in a year, Google will have way more developments. Sure, I'm sure they will. But for now, let's keep this off. Final URL expansion, keep this off. What this means, if you're familiar with a dynamic search campaign, you're pretty much giving it some. It's almost like it's a function of dynamic search where you're allowing it to go past the URLs that you actually URL that you actually put in here. Because as you can see at the top, there's only one URL you can input. Here you're saying it can kind of decide what other URLs to send traffic to, which risky again, because we're not doing pure e-commerce. It's not like we have clothing between shirts, hats, and we might get a bunch of searches between that. So Google might do a good job of mapping the right URL to the right person. Risky. I wouldn't recommend it. So here it's showing an example of image enhancements, and then example of landing page images. So it's just pulling images from your landing pages. You can do that if you want. Typically I'll have it off, and then I don't really like it to enhance images. I'm a bit wary on a lot of these. This will pretty much just optimize the sizing of your video. As good as the example looks here, typically that Google automatically doesn't do a good job, because it's not like a person doing it. It's all automatic. So something to keep in mind. This example is super, super cool. This is something new they added in recently, the landing page images. So again, if you don't want to manually spend a lot of time adding in images or have the right sizes, for example, you can leave it to Google. This is fine. It really just depends how much time you want to spend building this out and doing it. But ultimately, the inputs are what's going to get you the best result, being targeted with the right audiences in terms of your ad copy, and with the audience signal and search themes. I'm going to dive into that here. So as you can see, you can add up to 50 search themes. I don't like to add that many. It goes back to what I said with the combinations, with the headlines, descriptions. There's so much testing that needs to be done, and so much information that's given to Google, where typically, with conversion data, you want to give as much as possible. This is something else. You're not giving it clear intent on who you want to target when you add in, like 40, 50 search themes. I would really just add in 5 to 10, and then I would make them all store oriented. So like if somebody is searching, I just thought of the automotive parts example above, so I'm going to mention it here. So like automotive parts store. I would even say like near me. And then I'm located in Toronto, so I would do like automotive parts store Toronto. And I would focus on this kind of theme where everything is either qualified by location or near me, or something that you know only people looking locally would be searching up for. If you have like 5 search themes, that's all you need. Like you don't need more than that. And just make sure that there's demand right in your area. So like if you have multiple sub cities as well, like in Toronto, we also have kind of Vaughan, Richmond Hill, some of those areas closer by. So I would add in those subsidies as well. And that's going to get you to around 5 search themes. If there's different variations, so maybe there's a specific part type, again, just apply it to your own store that people are looking for, or variations of cold traffic, the way that people search for. Make sure you're adding that in here as well. And then with your audience, signal, make sure that I would add in first party data here. Again, why you're just feeding Google with info about who your past converters are, people that visited your website. And then I don't typically filter too much because I don't want to restrict a campaign like this, aside from the search themes and audiences. So demographics you can leave. In the future, you can change it. But what I want you to focus on, sorry, I meant demographics as in like changing the ages or the household income. You can leave. Otherwise, it might be a little bit too strict. CPCs might go up. I would add in like specific audiences. So you can search here. It's showing some just that it thinks are relevant, but you can go through and look. Again, this is where I love using AI because you can go into ChatGPT and say, I sell XYZ type of product, or I sell automotive parts, and I have a storefront location. Can you help me find in-market audiences or the right types of people to target to select as an audience in Google Ads for my Performance Max campaign? And it'll spit out a list. Some of those audiences might not be exactly what's in Google Ads, but try searching them here because it removes that headache of you trying to think. Best practice, have like 3 to 5 of these. Again, don't overcrowd, don't put too many because then your signal is not clear to Google and you're not really it's having that campaign is going to have a harder time understanding who to target. So in simple terms, so that's what I would say. Add some audiences here, add your first party data. So like all users, for example, that's like the lowest level signal, but the best would be like previous purchasers, and bonus like recent purchasers, not like all time, but like if you have enough data in the last 30, 60 days at all purchasers, that's really, really solid as well. Then you'll have to name your audience. So we can go next. In terms of daily budget, this is what I like to, you don't need a lot of budget because not a lot of people set this campaign up or know this is an option, meaning the competition is actually quite low for something like this. Again, when you're running a search campaign, you're boosting up your maps profile, but like this is super targeted and specific for a specific reason. So I would set it, you can go as low as $15 per day. And you can really scale it up. It all depends on the demand that you have in your area. So you can scale this up to $50, $100 per day for sure, at the very least. But it's just what I'm saying is like past that, you don't need too much budget unless you're in a super populated area where there's a lot of demand. That's where you want to look at impression share. So that's a metric that indicates of the searches available in the market for those search themes that you're targeting or providing as a signal, how much more opportunity is there for you to take over in the market? And that's really going to be the gauge. So that's that. And then I think one thing we didn't do back here, or it doesn't let you do it here. I was going to say we didn't add location targeting. And then it forces me to do this. I'm going to go fill these out real quick and then I'll be back. All right, so we're back here in the campaign. So I went through, did all the assets, published the campaign. So what you want to do is when you create it, it's going to take you back to the menu, go to campaigns, and then go to locations, and then edit location. And so you want to add what's relevant, right? Think about how far somebody is actually willing to drive out from your store. So if it's 20 to 30 kilometers, I would test a narrower range or narrower radius to start, and then you can gradually expand outwards. But you can set like a 10 to 15 kilometer radius around your store here, kilometer or mile. Obviously, depends what country you are in, but that's what I would say is good. I would actually add in the specific cities as well. So, like for me, it's Toronto, for example. Again, this would be too big of an example, but there's like kind of certain sub cities as well, which you might want to focus on. I would say focus on being more targeted than too widespread, unless you're in a super rural area where there's just not a lot of searchers overall. So that's what I would really keep in mind in that sense, is like you're not targeting all of Canada or US like a traditional e-commerce campaign. You're really targeting specific cities here. So that's what I would mention. And then the last thing I want to mention here is I just jumped through the steps just not to share sensitive info, but when you go to the campaign and then there's the gear, like there's always that gear. So you click the gear, it's going to take you to settings, and then you want to scroll down to other settings, open locations after you set up your location targeting or before, it doesn't matter. This is also a sneaky thing from Google. You've probably heard this elsewhere. Make sure you're only targeting presence, because if it's presence or interest, it's not necessarily people that just live in your location, but people that visited it recently. So something to keep in mind on that front. In terms of metrics, kind of building off of what I said at the start, you really want to be focused on optimizing conversions and tracking those right conversions correctly, because that's how you're going to know, are you actually driving phone calls or bookings for your local storefront. And then from there, you can progress towards setting a TCPA. You can start increasing your budget. And that's really how I would scale up this campaign. But honestly, a lot of people are surprised when you could set up something like this, just because it's not commonly talked about. I would say in today's landscape where we're at with 2026 just starting, local performance max campaign is going to be your best bet for this. Before, I would run something like a search campaign targeting those keywords near me, just doesn't perform as well. And I think the inventory that you have with performance max is a little bit better. You can always add in a search campaign on top, but again, if you're just starting out with this, like I would start with only a performance max campaign. Okay. If you have any questions, let me know in the comments. If there's another video or follow-up you want me to create, let me know. I can do that. Otherwise, I'll see you in the next one.